Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So when I'm not busy recording my Journey to Master episodes and tilting off of the face of the earth, I'm always looking at what the new changes are coming to League of Legends. And just like several of the other videos I have released in the past, this one is gonna be just like those. We'll be looking at 7 big changes that are coming to patch 6.14 or patch 6.14 in just a couple of days. The intention of this video is of course to let you know what is coming, what to expect, and once the patch finally does roll out, you will hopefully be able to ease right into it and be ready to go and play. So if you end up enjoying this video, make sure to let me know by hitting that like button, but let's not waste any more time and go right into the first big change coming to patch 6.14. So what's probably the biggest thing coming to this patch is going to be the Ryze rework. Now I'm sure most of you are quite aware of it. If you aren't, I do have a full gameplay of it on my channel that I highly recommend checking it out. But I'll quickly go over his abilities and my thoughts on him right now just to give you a rough idea. His passive now gives his spells extra damage based on his bonus mana, and his maximum mana is also increased by his AP. His Q now is somewhat similar, but it only reduces in cooldown whenever you cast his W or his E ability, and it also will charge a rune. Using your Q will consume any runes you have currently acquired, and if you had 2 runes acquired, then you will not only get a bonus move speed increase, but you will also get a temporary shield. His W is pretty much the exact same spell, so not really a whole lot to say. But Ryze's E ability is probably the most important one out of his 3 non-ultimate type abilities because it more or less sets everything up. Use it on one target initially and it gives him a debuff called Flux, which then based on what ability you cast next on a target with the Flux debuff, bonus things will happen. Your Q not only deals bonus damage to targets with Flux, but it also bounces to nearby enemies also with Flux. Your W snare will last twice as long on someone that is debuffed by Flux, and your E ability, if you use it on a target already with Flux, will essentially spread this debuff to every single enemy target around them. And finally we have Ryze's ultimate, which is pretty much Tahm Kench's ultimate on absolute steroids. Every single person around Ryze will teleport a somewhat decent amount of distance, and again this can be only one person or it could be the entire team. You're only able to put 2 points into his ultimate, but trust me, it has very big range for what it can accomplish. But to compensate for the lost skill point, you can actually put 6 points into his Q rather than the standard 5. All in all, this update is quite insane. The damage on his Q I've noticed is just absolutely ridiculous. He has pretty decent wave clear, he scales still quite well, and this ultimate is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the amount of things you can accomplish with it is going to make things very interesting to see how it plays out and how the professional players use it. All in all, definitely feels a little bit OP. But next, let's jump into some of the changes happening to the current champions we already know and love and maybe even hate. First up, we have Azir. Now, Azir has been known to be one of the most dominant mid laners in the entire game for a very long time, even though he's consistently received nerfs after nerfs. Well, it seems like Riot is back at it again by reducing the amount of vision you get from putting down a soldier to 350 from 575. Not the biggest thing in the entire world, but it is kind of useful to use the soldier to scout every now and then. Following this, they're also nerfing how the soldier's damage curve is adjusted. Now, in terms of how much damage you'll do at level 18 is the exact same, but the process of actually getting there is just a little more awkward. Easiest way to think about it is now you'll be pretty much doing less damage with the soldier across the board up until you hit level 18 once again. Not gonna lie, it kind of sucks to see them still consistently nerf Azir. I mean, he's definitely not an OP champion, his win rates aren't anything crazy. This is 100% solely focused on competitive play. Now, the nerfs aren't the worst thing in the entire world, but I mean, nerfing a champion that's not OP and takes a lot of skill to use effectively just kind of sucks. Hopefully this will be the last time Riot touches Azir in a very negative way. But let's next talk about Leona, who's receiving some very interesting changes this patch. Now, Leona is known to be one of the better supports at the very moment because she sort of came out of nowhere and just suddenly became really dominant and overall just a monster in the support role, so Riot is already taking a look at her. But here's what's happening to her. The passive damage has been lowered, the damage on her Q and her W has also been lowered, but to compensate just a bit, the cooldown on her Q has also been lowered so you can at least use it a bit more often. So looking at this alone makes it seem like Riot is trying to make Leona more of a utility type support champion, where she's more focused on actually locking down the target rather than also being able to deal a lot of damage. But then we look at the ultimate and things get a little bit more interesting. So first of all, just like every other ability, HP, the damage on her ultimate has been decreased by 50 at level 1 and a total of 100 at level 3. But the cool thing is the fact that she now has a completely new effect on her ultimate called Incandescence. And here's what it does. After using your ultimate, her next auto attacks, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 rank 1, rank 2, rank 3 ultimate, will be doing not only bonus damage, but they'll also be getting an increase of 100 range. So that already sounds pretty damn sweet. I mean, it gives Leona a lot of extra potential to do a lot of bonus damage as well whenever just really going in for that full damage combo. It's making me think maybe AP Leona might slowly become a thing. But there's still one more thing to talk about, because now Leona apparently with this buff on her ultimate will also be able to apply her own passive, which really is quite interesting. All in all, I mean, is this a nerf or is this a buff? It's a little bit hard to tell. I would just call it a change. It's neither really a nerf or a buff. It'll just sort of alter her playstyle by just a little bit. I mean, yeah, her laning phase power obviously went down, she won't have as much damage, but with this new ultimate's effect and the power that it can offer and the overall burst damage it can now give to her, it's pretty damn sweet. And I am very curious to see if Leona will be played in other roles. But let's move on to the next big change coming to patch 6.14, and this one is going to be about Poppy. So Poppy has been one of the most annoying champions for a very long time, but after several nerfs, she kind of fell off the face of the planet. You've never really seen her too frequently, or at least I haven't, but this right here might make things a little bit different. The cooldown on her passive has been reduced at the lower levels, but on top of this, her passive will now offer her more shield whenever she actually picks up the shield on the ground. It'll be 15% at level 1 based on the max HP, increasing to 17.5 at level 7 and 20% at level 13, which is up from only getting 15% at all levels on the current live Poppy. So this already sounds like a pretty damn sweet buff to Poppy, because you just simply get more shield now, you have a lower passive, so essentially you can use it more often in the laning phase, and I mean, it sounds pretty damn good. But just to put the cherry on the cake, there's also a buff to her W. It now gives 5 extra movement speed gain from this ability at every single rank. Again, not the biggest thing in the world, but combined with the buffs happening to her passive, I mean, it's a pretty decent change. I mean, it's gonna make people really look at Poppy once again and think, you know what, maybe she's still quite viable and maybe I should start playing her again. But let's move into another big change happening this patch, and once again it is to another support champion, Sona. So I do highly recommend trying to maybe check out this change for yourself. I have a link down below, but I will explain it as best as I can. So in general, Sona's aura range has been increased to 400 from 350, but the aura duration is no longer extended by up to 2 seconds whenever you tag allies with it. Her power chord, which is her passive, has been increased in terms of damage by quite a decent amount. And if you ever use your power chord with the W, the target now will actually deal 25% less damage for 3 seconds rather than 20. It'll now have an increase in AP scaling, and using this on an enemy champion will also make them shrink, which shows that they do have the debuff currently on them. Her Q ability's damage for the active effect has been lowered by 40 at rank 5, which is quite a little bit of damage. Which overall does make a little bit of sense, because Sona's power in the laning phase in terms of just damage output has always been a little bit too high. So it does seem like Ryze finally agrees with this, but to make up for this, the healing that she can now offer in the laning phase has been also increased. Because now at rank 5 it'll heal for 30 additional HP, the AP ratio has been increased to 0.25 from 0.2, the shield base value has been increased by 15 at rank 5, the AP ratio of the shield has also been increased to 0.3 from 0.2, but unfortunately the heal will no longer be increased based on the target's missing HP. Not the worst thing in the world, because now at least it means that Sona can keep her allies actually at full HP consistently rather than have to wait till they're maybe below half HP to really get a good benefit off of the heal. But there's still a few more changes, because now her E ability will grant Sona herself up to 20% plus 8% per 100 AP move speed out of combat, rather than only 17% and only getting 7.5% per 100 AP. Sona also gets this personal movement speed bonus for now 7 seconds, which is quite insane. The duration of her E ability's aura has been increased to 3 seconds from 1.5, and the AP ratio has also been increased. But the final change that's happening to Sona is her ultimate, where now it'll reduce the base cooldown of her Q, her W, and her E ability by 20, 30, or 40% rather than increasing the potency on her Q, W, or E. So this obviously makes Sona someone that can just spam spells much more frequently, which is how her playstyle should overall be, rather than being almost someone that relies on one specific moment to do as much as possible, or else you messed up. Her ultimate's passive will stack with CDR multiplicatively, so if you have 40% CDR and your ultimate is at rank 3, you'll be getting maybe around 64 or 66 total CDR on your abilities. All in all, quite the interesting change happening to Sona, nerfing her damage down by just a bit, but also increasing the amount of HP that she can heal overall. Now the final two changes I want to talk about aren't necessarily the biggest thing in the entire world, but they're definitely worth mentioning. The first one I want to talk about is going to be Lee Sin, a very popular champion, someone that a lot of people seem to really enjoy playing in the jungle, but now his W in terms of how much shield it can offer has been increased by a total of 80 at rank 5. Now this is the only change happening to him this patch it seems, but I mean 80 HP or at least 80 shield, that is quite the number, and maxing this second now can be quite beneficial. So this might spark a lot of people's interest to start playing Lee Sin once again, because this also essentially means that your clear is going to be a little bit better as long as you max your W second. Or maybe even putting a few points into W early and then maxing out the Q. But the final change I want to talk about is going to be to the Cloud Dragon. Now the Cloud Dragon has always been laughed at. I mean, everyone kind of hates taking it. It just doesn't feel like it offers anything. It more or less feels quite useless. Now the buffs that is receiving this patch, I mean, they are quite good, but I still wanted to see a little bit more. But the changes happening are as follows. You will now get 25, 50, or 75 out of combat movement speed rather than 15, 30, or 45, obviously based on how many Cloud Dragons your team has secured. Now the first two levels, 25 and 50, I mean, yeah, it's not too bad, honestly, it's pretty damn sweet, but 75 out of combat movement speed, that sounds pretty damn sweet, because if you can get 3 Cloud Dragons pretty early on, or even 2, 50 movement speed or 75, I mean, that's a lot of movement speed that helps roaming a lot for supports, mid laners, even top laners or junglers. It'll help your team get to objectives that much more quick, and I mean, overall, it's really not that bad of a change, but I still wanted to see a little bit more. But either way, guys, there you have it, patch 6.14 in a nutshell. Everything that you need to know, all of the biggest changes coming to this patch. Hopefully you have learned something new and are ready to dive into this patch the second it hits the live servers. If you did enjoy this video, guys, let me know by either hitting the like button, writing something down in the comments below as to what part of the video you enjoyed or maybe what I can improve on. But I truly thank each and every one of you so much for watching, and I really hope to see you for my next video. Peace.